Hello and good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Sparkcast. Today, the Sparkcast, where joy is medicine, healing is sacred, and remembrance is your superpower. Before we begin today's sacred journey and conversation, let's return to the present, to this moment, to this breath, this circle. Join me in our one breath, one heart ritual, a sacred moment to ground, remember, and rise. So wherever you are, please just get comfortable. Let your shoulders soften, drop down to the ground. Place one hand on your heart and the other in your womb, in your belly. And if it feels safe, gently close your eyes. Bring your awareness to your root, the base of your spine. This is where your power begins. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4, drawing up that breath up towards your crown, holding it for 4 seconds. And as you exhale slowly through pursed lips for 6 counts, let it soften and anchor you in this moment. Now envision a golden light in front of you, warm, radiant, alive. Breathe that in through your heart, holding it in your chest for 4 seconds, letting it settle in your heart center. Feel grounded, loved, empowered. Bring to mind one thing you're grateful for today. And smile softly. And as you exhale for 8 counts, let that gratitude ripple outward. Take one last deep breath in and add one more spark of gratitude. Whisper to your body, thank you. I love you. I am whole. And as you exhale fully, send that light out to this circle and to all who need it today. Now we speak the prayer of remembrance, the Ho'oponopono, together. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Now set your intention to show up with presence, with truth and love, how you want to be received. And that, with one breath and one heart, we may now begin. Today's guest, I always get body chills when we do that. Today's guest is someone who paints with the colors of her soul. Nadja Marks began her creative journey at the age of 5 with paper and paint, a path that led her to a bachelor's degree in fine arts. 3 years of classical atelier, I'm saying that wrong, training.
Atelier.
Yes, there you
Atelier.
go. And a global career in visual arts across film, TV, and international galleries. But what truly sets Nadja apart is not where her art has been, it's where it brings you. She is the founder of Casa Nadja, a living gallery and sacred sanctuary where art becomes a devotional practice and a portal to remembering your divine self. A mystic and transformational creative coach, Nadja guides others into presence through paint, movement, and story, not to perform, but to come home. In this conversation, we invite you to drop the mask of getting it right and enter the studio of your soul. Please help me welcome Nadja Marks to the show today. Welcome.
That was such a beautiful introduction, Margarita. Like, wow. Including the breath and grounded practice. Thank you.
Thank you. So honored to have you here today. So, we're just going to get right into it, my friend.
Yes.
So, the questions always start with our grounding truth, that pivotal moment where we in our like ground into our identity. And you've spoken so much of art not as performance but presence, which is so beautiful. How did your early creative path shape your relationship to identity? And how has that evolved as you've come home to your truth as an artist, mystic, and a guide?
So, hi everyone. I'm Nadja. Um, I grew up in a very blessed fashion with a mom who was a mystic, who is a mystic, and um, she toured the world. And she wrote a book when she went to India, and we toured the world. I've seen a lot of the world from very young, so that shaped me so deeply in terms of like tuning into the divine in a very big way. I wasn't narrow at all. I followed that stream of travel and expansion after college, which I majored in art in college. And after college, I went to Israel and I immediately started absorbing mysticism. Just like I painted so much while I was there, and I went to grave sites of Kabbalists, and I learned really deep mysticism through the lens of Judaism. And what mysticism is to me is I'm going straight to God. Like I go straight to source. For me, it's a practice of not requiring a middle person, a priest or a rabbi. For me, it's not requiring some middle man to go straight to source. So as a mystic, I'm devoted to source. Like I'm so obsessed. I'm so grateful. I'm so tapped in to the energy of source, and I pray to be a vessel for source. So that's my relationship, or my identity is whenever I make it about me, I start getting very narrow, and when I make it about source, then I start identifying as a vehicle or like as an instrument. And so when you say identity, I can go into any identity. I can be a very small, shame filled, or like ashamed. I can go into fear. I can go into shame. I can go into all of that dense stuff. I could identify with that. And I can also identify as the vessel that holds all of that density, and the alchemist that lets that density move through me. My name means movement of God. So being the vehicle or the vessel for God to move from dense to expanded fields within my own system, and then love what comes through my instrument because it's divine. And so I finally love my art. It wasn't always like this, but I actually love my art now because I'm an instrument for the source that I already am in love with.
Wow. That's so beautiful and romantic. Um,
Yeah.
and I just think it's beautiful that you had it such early on.
Yeah.
I think I love what you said about identity, and you can fall into any identity, but when you are devoted into being the vessel from God and source, you really are more expansive and you see with clarity, is what I heard. Like
Yeah.
you can really ground in the purpose work of what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
So as you talked about like falling into these other identities, right? So overcoming them and reframing them is kind of like what we are into in the leadership that I've learned, right? So the question now would be, was there ever a time that your creativity was dimmed, maybe by self-doubt or perfectionism or external pressure? And then how did you reclaim your voice and remember that art was your portal back to yourself?
Yes. 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 It's so funny to be in a place where I love my art, because for the longest I was the one that was like, how could anyone love their art? Like I couldn't see it. And so now to be someone who you ask that question to, it like, have I always been like this? It's just such a pinch me moment. But I think that what spirit has told me, or what my inner guides, my inner wisdom has told me, is that I had to experience every single type of block so that I can guide other artists through that process. So every version of comparison, every version of shame, of smallness, of dimming my light, every version of that I've gone through it. even in ways that I wasn't anticipating. Like when I went to classical training, I went to study at an atelier, and it's very, very high level skills passed down from artist to artist to artist, from Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo. So it's a very high level skill. But after being in that program for 3 years, my soul was dimming, and I was like, stop giving me that message, soul. Like, let me stay here, let me do this. And my soul was like, I'm literally like dimming, and my soul like had me stop going to that program, because my inner artist, who I then had to reclaim after that program, my inner artist was just like, I have to be so much more free than this technical training is allowing me to be. So thank God I got the technical training, but then I had to like fully not unlearn, but like relearn and remember my own soul, my own connection, my own interpretation of source. I had to relearn that so that I could actually express my artistry versus just technically skilled artistry. And that's been a process that has finally allowed me to love my artistry. So now I have I see artistry as 3 parts: skill, soul, and sales. Skill, like to be able to be a vessel, a channel, an instrument that's actually attuned to beauty. Like I'm so grateful for that. Plus soul, which I reclaimed after I learned the skill. I reclaimed the soul. And then the sales part, we can talk about that at another time, but I need to be in a reciprocity with the universe, or else I'm going to be in a scarcity, and I won't be able to keep doing my generosity. I'm going to be in like hoarding and hiding. So skill, soul, and sales are all ways that I have reclaimed fragments or figments of my vessel in order to fully shine in the way that I currently do.
Oh, yes, I love what you said, being in reciprocity to avoid being in scarcity. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like the
Yeah,
importance of reciprocity versus scarcity.
yeah. So, all right. So my story is that from age 26, I got skills, then I reclaimed my soul, and then sales happened because I was living basically in a very small version of myself. I was not showing my art. I was not in generosity. And now the way that I see it, because I speak in metaphors, this is my visual field, is all metaphors. So the way I see it is okay, do you know what the mycelium network is? Maybe I'll
Mhm.
explain that. So I'll explain that for anyone who's listening. So the mycelium network is the fungi or the mushroom network. It looks almost like the brain synapses, and it's underfoot, deep and wide. It's the first thing that was here before humans were here. And I see us humans as part of this network, as part of this, like, so when one of us turns on our light, to soul, when one of us turns our lights on in our soul, now we have access. Now the others in the mycelium network can see us. So that's what I mean by reciprocity. Once I turn on my light and I'm like, this is me, I'm not making it about if I'm good enough anymore. I'm just making it about my soul is now inhabiting my body, and my light is now able to be seen without me blocking it. So my lights are on. Now the mycelium network has access to me, and now they want my paintings. And now I'm turning my house into a gallery. And now I'm posting on social media. And now I'm doing things that I was not doing when my lights were not turned on and when I was not in reciprocity with the mycelium network. I was hiding from the mycelium network. And I think that many of us know, we all kind of, not all, but we come through that evolutionary stage of like hiding from the mycelium network, just being like, I don't know who's here. My light's not turned on fully. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still evolving. I'm not ready yet. My skills are not ready yet. I can't show myself yet. All the things. Once we turn the light on, then the others in the mycelium network are like, I want to be inspired by the light. It's not that it comes through me as painting, it's that the lights are turned on. So you could have that in any type of artistry. You can have that through podcasting. You could have that through, like, as long as your lights are turned on, that's artistry. Because I call artistry as aligning radically to truth. And light is the truth. So when I'm aligned radically to the light that I am, now I'm available to the others in the mycelium network, and now I'm in reciprocity with them.
I love that. I had no idea it was going to take us to the mycelium. I love the visual you that you gave and the metaphors. You definitely have a gift for that. So, there's so much noise, right? Because you were talking about hiding, and so much of us do that. So there's like that faith and wellness and inner resilience that comes with shining your light. So, as a
Yeah.
creative guide and artist, intuitive artist, what practices help you stay connected to your essence? And do you have any rituals or materials or ways of entering the zone that support your process?
Yes. Okay. So what I did right when you led us in that meditation um, was I dropped into my favorite quick vessel practice, which is my tailbone starts grounding toward the center of the earth. My tailbone literally, just like, I imagine a cord coming to the center of the earth and connecting with the center of the earth, almost like in the movie Avatar, where like the filaments kind of come together. So I feel connected to this planet that I'm standing on. And then from the soft spot of my head, I connect to the top of the cosmos. And it allows me to feel like I'm this almost like French press of a vessel. And so I can clear my vessel like a French press down to the center of the earth to alchemize all of the anxious energy. I mean, I was trying to put my background on, and it was like, oh no, we're at time and I don't have my background. So I just letting all that come down through to the center of the earth. And then the French press opens up with my inhale to the top of the sky. And now I can access that higher wisdom, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, source. And putting myself into a vessel is one of the quickest way I can shift into, okay, now how does life want to move me? Like, I knew the questions you were going to ask me, but I specifically did not spend any time thinking about the answer, because I knew that the moment that I'm a vessel and that you ask the question, it's going to prompt me in that moment in a way that I can't prepare for. So that's one practice, is putting myself into a vessel format. And I do that anytime I'm going into channeling mode or creation mode.
I love that. French press. Because I can visualize it, like you're really great at helping people who might not know or get a visual of how
Yeah.
to do that. So thank you for that. And it's simple and it's easy, and it really is opening yourself up and allowing for your intuition pretty much to take over is what I was
Yeah.
hearing you.
It's remembering that I'm the vessel versus the big. Okay, here's another metaphor. Um, I'm the ocean, and the big whales are swimming with a lot of spaciousness when I'm the ocean. But when I see myself as the whales, then I might feel like there's too much in my being, and it's too claustrophobic. It's too crowded. So it's the remembrance that I'm the ocean, and then everything can like move and flow and go. Now the whales can go where they want to go. But if I'm only identifying with the whales, I'm going to feel way too crowded and too anxious in my own space. So playing with energy and remembering how to be a really big vessel is one of the most important skills in being an artist.
And what I also heard in there is also like letting go of expectations, being rigid on how it's supposed to look. And I think a lot of times we can get stuck having it has to be a certain way, it has to look this way. And we become that whale instead of being the, the,
Yes.
the expansive ocean of possibility,
Yes.
right? And oh God, I just got chills with that because there is so when you can really expand and just trust and be in the flow, the first guidance that you get is that intuition hit. And that's your higher self. That's God, that's source saying, this is your path. This is the truth of
Yeah.
who you are. Move
Yeah.
with it. And then we
Yes.
just get to react, right? We get to take action on it once
Yes.
we do that.
It
And
reminds me
it's so
also of
beautiful.
birth.
Yeah.
It reminds me of birth also. Like you have, I haven't given birth, but I know enough about it to know that you have to know that God is wanting you to birth this um in union, like in union with God. Like it's so, you have to be in the space of like, God wants me to birth this. So when you put yourself in that kind of ocean space, you can experience the sense of, I'm not fighting with God to birth this. God wants to support this birth. And now I'm like, that's where they call it co-creatorship. Now I'm not trying to like fight my way to to create something. Now I'm like, me and God, spirit, whatever, we're homies. Like we're in this together and we're co-creating this together.
Speaking of co-creation and community, it's so important that you are now sharing your gift with the world because it's inspiring others to find themselves within their artistry. So Casa
Yeah.
Nadja is more than a studio. It's simply a sanctuary. I mean, I have only seen the videos and I can't wait to meet you in person and be at Casa Nadja myself. So how does creative expression foster inclusion and belonging, especially for those who feel unseen, silenced, and forgotten?
You and I both know about ways of being because we've both done a leadership course, the same one, and it's about creating a space, again, a vessel, a container for ways of being like vulnerability, connection, creativity, ways of being that we all have access to. Let's call them whales. Let's just call them like whales that we all have access to. And I speak a lot about the map of consciousness, that cone of emotions that goes from shame all the way up to enlightenment, David Hawkins' work. I think that's one of the most fantastic ways to describe this. So, my space that I'm creating, that I've created, that I am always creating, is holding a certain frequency of love and above, or acceptance and above. And because I'm holding that frequency, people can find within themselves their access point to that whale that they already have access to, but they might be on any other occasion hanging out in fear or shame or that kind of thing. So they step into this field and all of a sudden they're already met with love. They're met with divine mother energy. They're met with, you are safe to come here just as you are. Like you are, I just see everyone through that lens of like acceptance and love and gratitude. I just hold that space. And so they step in and it's like, a lot of people have the same experience. They're like, I feel like I just stepped into an alternate timeline, like an alternate parallel universe where I don't know what place I'm in. I don't know what time I'm in. I'm like, that's how I developed this space, was come in here. You don't even know what memory, if it's in the future or in the past, like you don't know where you just stepped into. It's almost like timeless and placeless. But the
Mm.
frequency, the way of being, is love and above. And so they're able to meet their higher version of themselves in vulnerability. There's a lot of vulnerability that's shared in that space. And they just feel safe enough to tap into their higher versions of themselves, because I'm also doing that. So they all of a sudden feel creative, opening like there was, I just had a retreat last weekend. It's called Attune, to attune our divine instrument. And one girl has, no, two people had never painted before, ever. They've never painted before. I was like, that's fine. They tapped into creativity and they were like blowing their own mind. They're like, I'm painting. I can't believe this. They had so much beliefs about themselves not being able to paint. And all of a sudden they're like in a space of creativity because it's just, they just walked into that container. And so that's what that space is. It's holding a space for others to step into ways of being, like connection, vulnerability, authenticity, love, and divinity.
That's beautiful. Love and above. Holding in, holding that space. Was it easy all the time, or did you, did you find yourself? what are the challenges that come with that? And do you remind yourself before you have a show how to ground to hold a space again? Or do you do rituals in the space? Like how do you maintain that energy?
I really love your questions, Margarita. You're a really great question
Thanks.
asker. So yeah, um, I I turned okay. That house. I talk a lot about alchemy. That house itself was the crux of a massive divorce that I went through, and it was like that house ended up being the the number one crux of that divorce. Like we went to court about it. We paid $100,000 just in court fees. Like it was a whole thing. There was a lot of maybe I'm not going to keep this house. Maybe I'm going to have to sell it. So even the fact that it exists as it is alchemy in motion. It's like turning immense fear, immense scarcity. In fact, I was in the courtroom and my ex-husband's lawyer said to me, "How are you even paying for this divorce? Aren't you an artist?" Like he literally said that on public record. Like, how are you even paying for this? You're an artist. And I'm like,
Oh my
whoa. I was
goodness.
literally on like I was on the stand, the witness stand or whatever they call it. And he said that to me. And I was like, I'm doing some serious alchemy here. This is where pain turns into your purpose, right? Because when I talk about abundance, it's because I've known scarcity so intimately. So, no, this house has not always been a hub for abundant joy, abundant love. It was abundant scarcity for like years. And now that it's alchemizing, a bunch of miracles have happened because the intention was I'm keeping this house. And then a bunch of miracles happened in order to keep that house. And now it's just turned into gratitude and contribution. Now I'm like, I'm here in service because I so nearly lost this space that it's just like turned into the exact opposite of pure gratitude and love and devotion. So
Yes.
I don't know exactly how to answer that question other than like, oh, you said how do I ground that space? Um, I do grid the property with intentions, with crystals. I have a connection to a lot of the spirits that live on that land, like fairy energy and some of my divine avatar, like Sai Baba, is grounding that space. There's a lot of devas or goddesses and God energy that I am gridding that land with. So that's for one. I sage a lot. Um, I clear it with Florida water. I'm definitely a shaman in a lot of ways. I'm doing a lot of clearing, like even during the retreat. Every few hours, I'm like, does anyone want me to come around with Florida water? And they're like, yes. Everyone's like, yes, yes, yes. And then I come around, I clear their field, and then they're like, oh, I feel so much more clear. I feel so much more free and creative. So I'm just doing that kind of thing. Lighting candles. I have an altar. I'm always resetting my altar and putting candles and flowers on the altar and pulling oracle cards. I'm just constantly communing with spirit on that land.
That's beautiful. So I mean, it's a devotion and
Yeah,
ritual. And I
yeah,
think that is what this whole Sparkcast is about. You know, we don't arrive at our healing
yeah,
because there are layers and layers that we yet to unpack. And it is a sacred devotion.
yeah,
And I loved that you actually take this space and you have intention. And I heard you say intention a few times, and I think it's so important. Intention is 100% everything, is what
yeah,
I've learned in my journey.
yeah,
And so my question to all those out there listening right now is like, what is your intention every time you wake up? Do you
yeah,
set an intention for your day? So these are all the things that Nadja is doing. She's very intentional in the way that she's showing up in the world. And I'm seeing that being impacted not just through you, but because it's you owned your light You're
Yeah.
giving permission for those others to come and explore what it might look like. And I love that you give them silent permission and you
Yeah.
hold the space in a way that you're not making people do anything. They're discovering
Yeah.
their own souls again. What
Yeah.
is that experience like for you when you see
Yeah.
that?
It's just like you said, it's permission and it's an invitation. It's not saying you have to change. It's saying, do you wish to vibrate at the frequency that will create the life that you actually want versus the life that you, because we're always creating. Like, part of my principles are that we're all artists, we're all creators. I mean, in so many ways, we're creating life all day long. We are creating all the time. So I'm inviting them to vibrate at a frequency that's going to play music that they love. It's going to play a radio station frequency that they love versus the one that's like triggering. And I'm not saying triggering is bad. I'm saying lean into the triggering. The invitation is lean into that, because through that alchemy, you can actually experience a higher vibration that's also your birthright. So it's an invitation to your birthright, which is frequencies that create what you want. When I say frequencies, like literally just Google David Hawkins' map of consciousness. You can either vibrate in places that are going to turn your life into more of the same that you don't want, or you're going to vibrate at spaces that's going to create the unknown, like artists play in the uncertainty. And to kind of step off of that cliff and like walk a path that's totally uniquely yours. I want to say another practice that I do, which is unplugging like anybody else's opinions. Like, I have this practice where I think about it as like any cord that's connected to you that someone else believes about you or about life. Just like sovereignty is reclaiming your space, reclaiming your sovereign cosmic egg, so that when you do walk your path, it's uniquely your path and it's not tethered. Like, imagine walking a path, but you're like tethered to a bunch of cords over there. No one gets to be corded into you unless you intentionally choose to allow them to be. So being in your own field, that was pretty much the start of this path that I'm really on now. Is I went on a solo trip to California and I was able to totally clear my field of any other cords to any other person and experience the fullness of my own essence, like as if I was a tea bag that was steeping in my own water and experiencing my own essence and my own flavor of my own tea bag without other people's tea bags in my cup. And that is so crucial in this process of becoming you, as the divine invitation to be you, fully you.
Hmm. Setting all of that ground for everybody out there listening. I loved what you said about un that visual of unplugging or cutting cords, right? Of other people's beliefs, other people's ideals of you or stories of you, so that you can come back to your sovereignty. It's that simple. Like it really, when we say it out loud, it just sounds simple because it is. It's just a choice and it's a devotion and it's a practice and it's some every day. Keep doing it every day. It's not a one and done. Um, and so as we're getting close to the end of this talk, um, there are the people, the women and the artists that are yet to discover their own artistry, their own creativity, and they're listening and they're feeling not creative or
Mm-hmm.
maybe disconnected from their inner artist. What would you say to remind her that her creativity is her birthright and the path back to her power?
Mm. Someone came to my retreat. I said this. She had never painted before, and when I spoke about her coming to the retreat, she started having a visceral reaction. Like, she was holding her neck a lot. She was having a lot of anxiety come through. And I said, "Can I talk to your inner artist for a moment?" And she's like, "Okay." Like she had never been asked that before. Because we're a cluster of a lot of different parts. Okay. So to that person that, I don't know where to find that inner artist. Okay. Bring your hands to your heart. Can I talk to your inner artist? Maybe we haven't talked to her in a long time, but she's there. Ask her to come forward. Does she want to come forward? Sometimes we have to rebuild that trust with her or him. Sometimes they're not ready to come forward because we have believed that they don't exist. And so she might not want to come forward. But doing a journaling practice or a dialogue practice where we ask her questions and she answers. And for example, this girl that came to me, I said, "Is your inner artist afraid of a blank canvas?" And she started answering as her adult self. I'm like, "No, I don't want to hear from your adult self right now. I want to hear from your inner artist. How old is she?" 6 years old? Okay. Can I hear from her? Is she afraid of a blank canvas? And she was able to change her identity to the inner artist identity. And she's like, "No, I'm so excited by a blank canvas." And it was like, it blows people's minds that they can even answer from a different part within us. Like it blows people's minds. They're like, "I didn't know that she was there." Right, because you keep answering on her behalf. So of course you don't know she's there. You're literally saying like, "Let me have the microphone." You don't get the microphone because someone told you at a very young age that she doesn't get the microphone. So give her the microphone. And a very practical example that you can do, or a practical exercise, is give her the microphone and say, "Can I get to know you?" And just dialogue with her. Even in your journal, you can do it. If you like to talk out loud, you can use your notes, or not. You can just do it in the privacy of your own home, even if it feels silly. It doesn't really matter if it feels silly because she's worth it, and you get to get over the silliness because she's worth it. And I will say, once you bring in your inner artist into your being and give her the microphone, your life starts to completely change. You stop answering for her and you allow her to make decisions. All of a sudden, you have access to one of the greatest superpowers that you can even imagine. She knows everything. She knows what she wants. She knows what she likes. She knows how to do it. She knows how to paint. She knows how to sing. She knows how to dance. The problem is that we stopped giving her an identity and we started having like an adult identity that took over. So to those people at home, I would say reestablish that relationship. You are the only person responsible to reestablish your relationship with your inner artist. There's no one else that can do that. There's no one else who literally is able to, um, except for you. And then people like me are just reminders of that. I'm not your inner artist, but I can remind you that she exists. That's my role in people's lives, is the divine reminder that she is so exists and she is so divine and she knows just where to go to get to love and above. She lives at love and above. So if you want like a cheat code to get right to love and above on that map of consciousness, go right to your inner artist because she lives in delight. She lives in alchemy. She's sitting in your consciousness right now going, "Put me in, coach, put me in, put me in." Like, I can't wait to make decisions for your life. I am so ready. I've been waiting. And here I come as Nadja. And I'm like, "Oh, have you remembered about one of your greatest superpowers that exists?" That's basically all that I am here on this podcast to do.
Wow. The inner superpower. And you're right. I have a 13 and 12-year-old, and I saw the transition of when they were living full out and that inner child and that knowing of that, the love and above to like being worried about what people think about them and having, like just mom, that's embarrassing, not being so full and not wanting to draw or paint anymore, and that is how we are as adults.
Yeah.
We ignore the inner child. It's almost kind of like we say we need to look serious. We're adults now. We can't play. But what I heard you just share is that is where our biggest, like most aliveness lives,
Yes.
in that inner child and that inner artist. That inner artist is your inner child.
Yes.
one that knew how
Yes.
to play full
Yes.
out, and was just in love with everything. Everything
Yeah.
they did, everything they said, we're like, look at me. Even if it was just hopping on one foot, you're like, look at me, mom. We're just so
Yeah.
excited about life and everything. So thank you for that invitation. I get to do more of that myself. So thank you for that today. I
Yeah,
really
and
appreciate.
I have multiple meditations if you want to. I don't know where you share stuff, but I'm happy to. They're on YouTube. I can just share them with you for you to get to know the personality of your inner artist. Anytime you start to think, "Oh, I know who she," no, you don't. You're just starting to get to know her. She is so vast and so uniquely you that to like just get to know her in one dialogue session is just like there's so much to her. She's so dynamic. She is so capable, so competent. And every child starts off as an artist. And Pablo Picasso says the trick is to staying an artist as you become an adult because every child is an artist.
Yes. The trick is staying as an artist when you become an adult. The trick is to stay just in the truth of who you are as you
That's
get
right.
into adult, like
That's
not
right.
just your artist, but like the truth of who you are, that
Yeah.
bold, confident, risk taker, whoever you were as a child. And
Right.
that's what when I talk to people in coaching them, the one thing I always say is like just go back to like the essence of who you were as a child, like those
Yeah.
parts of you that you compartmentalized, because I see people being, I know for me, I was a different person at work and I was a different person at home. I was a different person with this friend.
Yeah.
And because I felt not safe,
Yeah.
because society says you have to look a certain way to
Yeah.
fit in. And it's like, no, when we all show up and give permission to be our truth, more people will start showing up that way, and we will just naturally be living in a space of love and acceptance and
Yes.
generosity,
Yes. And
right?
when you say the truth of who we are, the artist is, I just for anyone who's not ready to claim that term, that's totally fine with me. It's just that it's an archetype. Think about the artist as an archetype who knows how to create according to the truth of who you are. Okay, so that's why I define art as aligning radically to truth. She knows how to create, or he knows how to create according and aligned to the truth of who you are. And
Mm.
who you are, you're not your authentic self is not shame, it's not doubt and fear. That's not the truth of who you are. That's a densified version of who you are. But when you connect to who you are, you don't care what other people think. You don't care about comparing yourself or perfection. You literally do not care to any of that stuff. So it's just your choice whether you want to connect to an archetype who is going to put you all of a sudden, like literally leapfrog you into a perspective, like a bird's eye view, that is able to see the truth of who you are versus the worm's eye view, which is like, I guess I'm a worm. Like, yeah, I'm a worm too, but I'm also a bird and I'm also all of it. I can play in the whole spectrum of the map.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So you mentioned earlier that you have meditations. So before we close this conversation, and just thank you so much for being here and for bringing this conversation to the table of, I've suppressed my own artistry recently, and I wonder why I don't feel happy or content. It's because I'm holding that part outside of myself. I was like, I'll get to that someday, just like going rollerblading. I was like, rollerblading makes me shine. And I was like talking about it more than I did it. So I finally went and rollerbladed and I felt free. And I was just like, oh my gosh, why did I wait so long to do this? But I wanted to open the floor to you. Is there anything that you have coming up within your community that you'd like to share? How can our listeners learn more about your beautiful work?
Definitely Instagram is so now that I'm stepping into this like full on trust fall with divine source that's using me as an instrument. Everything I do, I'm going to be sharing to Instagram. That's just like the easiest thing for me to do. So definitely there. But in particular, I've got an in-person. So if you're in Sarasota, I've got an in-person journey that I'm co-hosting with someone, and we're going to be leading a really amazing journey using flower essences and art. So it's going to be transformation through the subtle fields versus like transformation in this kind of way. There's a lot of ways to transform. We're always transforming, but this is through the subtle yet very powerful results from flower essences. And that's just the next thing I'm up to. But things are really like, I'm having a lot of collaborations coming through. I'm just in such a dance with life right now. And if you want to just like be a part of that, I would love to, because I love participating and collaborating and partnering with other humans on this planet. Like, I love it so much.
Oh, be a dance with life. All these beautiful little sound bites you have today. And just like that, my friends, the interview has come to our end, but I just want to thank you for being here. What a beautiful transmission. Today, we were reminded that mysticism isn't some faraway concept. It's a direct line to source, the devotion to become a vessel for truth, and the reclamation of the soul that has was never truly lost. Nadja took us into the waters of remembrance, where scarcity is transmuted into service, where pain becomes the pigment of purpose, and where the inner child holds the brush, painting us back to life. She reminded us that when we unplug from other people's ideals, we step away from performance and into presence. We don't just remember who we are, we become art in motion. So maybe the real revolution is this: to scale our souls as boldly as we scale our lives, our sails, to be the ocean of possibility, to ask the question to unlock our truest identity. And maybe, just maybe, the French press isn't just for coffee. It's a ritual to ground, to drop in, and to connect with the voice within. Your artist is still alive. Be a dance with life. Your soul is still whispering, and your light, it's begging to be seen. Thank you again for being here in the sacred circle of truth, remembrance, and soul-led healing. If this conversation sparked something within you, if your heart cracked open just a little more, if you felt seen, heard, or simply not alone, please share this and subscribe to our channel. Remember, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Until next time, sisters, keep shining, keep rising, keep coming home, because you matter. You are enough, exactly as you are. Thank you so much, Nadja. Pleasure to
Thank
have
you,
you.
Margarita. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
All right, let me end this.